THETRUMP phenomenon. Introduction: Questions before certainty. Every generation believes it would recognize the warning signs of history. We imagine that if something truly dangerous were happening, the evidence would be obvious, clear, undeniable. But history rarely works that way. Before catastrophe becomes undeniable, it usually exists only as arguments. Some people warn that something is going wrong. Others dismiss those warnings as hysteria. Everyone demands proof. But history presents a strange problem. By the time the proof becomes undeniable, the moment to prevent the disaster may already be gone. So we are left with questions. What if political movements that seem new are actually following very old patterns? What if the warning signs of democratic decline never arrive as certainty, only as arguments? And what if waiting for absolute proof is exactly how societies sleepwalk into danger? Then there is the curious case of the orange-skinned leader, a figure whose face is so exaggerated in hue that it seems absurd, yet perhaps this absurdity is genius, because now, in the mind of the observer, everyone can see themselves reflected in that skin tone. Everyone has a shade of orange. Everyone can relate. Manipulation disguised as folly. These questions matter today because in the 21st century, American politics has been reshaped by a movement centered around one man, Donald Trump. Some people believe this movement represents a necessary rebellion against corrupt institutions. Others believe it contains echoes of a darker political past. To explore that question, we have to start somewhere uncomfortable, with history. Section 1: The Rise of the Strong Leader. In the early 20th century, a political movement rose to power in Germany under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. Germany had been devastated by defeat in World War I. The economy collapsed during the Great Depression. Millions of people felt humiliated, betrayed, and abandoned by their political elites. Into that moment stepped a leader promising restoration, national pride, strength, a return to greatness. Nearly a century later, American politics saw the rise of another leader promising national restoration: Donald Trump. His slogan was simple: "Make America Great Again." Political movements built around powerful leaders often share certain emotional structures. First comes humiliation. A population begins to believe something has been stolen from them. Then comes explanation. Someone must be responsible. And finally comes the promise. Only one leader is strong enough to fix it. Section 2: Militarized Identity and the Power of the Enemy. War requires something unusual from human beings. It requires ordinary people to kill. Military psychologists such as Dave Grossman have written extensively about the psychological barriers humans have toward killing one another. Those barriers often have to be overcome through training and through the creation of enemies. Dehumanization makes violence easier. When politics begins to resemble wartime rhetoric, when political opponents become enemies rather than rivals, something important has changed. Politics stops being debate. It becomes conflict. Section 3: Desperation, Historical Memory, and Power Vacuums. History provides many examples of how desperation reshapes identity. In the 19th century, Irish immigrants fled the Great Famine of Ireland and arrived in the United States impoverished and desperate. Early Irish immigrants often shared the lowest rungs of society with Black Americans. Irish culture, in its original form, was not anti-Black. But poverty imposed by the English crown forced desperate people into untenable choices. Desperation can lead individuals to act against those they share more in common with than those who oppress them. It changes what people are willing to tolerate. It changes who they are willing to harm. Another historical example appears in Russia. The collapse of the Romanov dynasty during the Russian Revolution created a massive political vacuum. Old institutions collapsed. And when power vacuums appear, they rarely remain empty. Something always rushes in to fill them. Sometimes reform. Sometimes revolution. Sometimes authoritarian rule. Modern politics mirrors this pattern. Section 4, Identity Politics and the Trump Coalition. One of the most confusing elements of modern American politics is how political identity crosses ethnic lines. Consider the movement known as Latinos for Trump. Many of these voters are Caucasian, but are still not granted the social elevation of white status in America. The movement offers the promise of assimilation, of being recognized as fully American, while simultaneously appealing to fear and ambition. Similarly, many poor MAGA-supporting whites believe they are being elevated. They imagine themselves closer to power, but the ruling class may exploit this desire only to crush them and leave a vacuum. Then, when the leader returns, the cycle repeats. The first and second Trump administrations illustrate this pattern. The failures of the Biden administration, particularly the farcical exit from Afghanistan, left a vacuum. Many logical thinkers, observing institutional failure, were primed to throw themselves at the feet of Trump as the Romanov figure, hoping for stability, fearing chaos, and misjudging the cost. Section 5, Institutions Under Pressure. Modern American politics now operates in an environment of deep institutional distrust. Institutions are not neutral arbiters, they are engines that shape social perception. They often cause people to distrust each other rather than only their oppressors. Citizens are pitted against one another. Neighbors, colleagues, friends, who can be trusted, who is aligned with the movement, who is an enemy. Debates about immigration enforcement involving agencies such as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement illustrate this divide. Supporters argue these institutions are simply enforcing existing law. Critics argue their methods represent an expansion of government power that should worry anyone concerned with civil liberties. Section 6, the information battlefield. In the 20th century, propaganda often had a central authority. In Nazi Germany, it was directed by Joseph Goebbels. But in the 21st century, propaganda does not come from a single office. It comes from an ecosystem. Cable news networks, social media platforms, political influencers, algorithms designed to amplify outrage. Everyone believes they are resisting propaganda. Everyone believes the other side has fallen for it. And when truth becomes tribal, politics becomes war. Conclusion. So, where does that leave us? The question is not whether the past is repeating itself. History never repeats perfectly. The real question is whether the same human instincts keep producing the same political storms. Fear, identity, belonging, and the promise that one powerful leader can restore everything that has been lost. Democracies rarely collapse overnight. They erode slowly, through division, through distrust among citizens, through the belief that one man alone can fix the nation. And by the time everyone finally agrees on what happened, history has already moved on.
Look around. The world is not as we wish it to be. Leaders rise, promising salvation, while desperation drives people to believe in illusions, false hierarchies, and empty slogans. History repeats. The Romanovs oppressed the peasants of Russia, the Irish and immigrants were manipulated by circumstance, and the cycles of power and obedience continue today. But you are not powerless. Knowledge is a light, discernment is a shield. Question, challenge, and refuse to kneel to empty promises. See the patterns, understand the structures, and refuse to be a pawn. If this resonated with you and you want to see more, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let us keep questioning together. Thank you and have a great evening.